if Paul is right in linking homosexuality to idolatry, then he's linking homosexuality to a failure of human relationality, which is essential to mirroring the divine image in the human person. So let's go, with that basic thesis in mind, we go to Genesis 1 through 3. Now, there are 5 passages in the Old Testament that use the word image when describing man and his relationship to God. 3 are found in the early chapters of Genesis, and the other 2, from Sirach and from Wisdom, clearly depend upon the Genesis teaching. Now, Martin gives a literal translation of the 3 Genesis texts, and the literal translation is helpful for our purposes. And Elohim said, it's one of the names for God, and Elohim said, "Let us make Adam, the Adam, in our image, as our likeness, that they may rule over the fish of the sea, and the birds of the heavens, and the tame beasts, and all the earth, and all the creeping things creeping on the earth." And Elohim created the Adam in his image. In the image of Elohim he created him. Male and female, he created them. That's Genesis 1, 26 through 27. The next text is this. It's from the Yahwist account of creation, the sin of the first couple and the murder of Abel, because it's Genesis 5, 1 through 3. This is the list of the generations of Adam. On the day when Elohim created Adam, he made him in the image of Elohim. Male and female he created him. And he blessed them, and he called their name, and notice that he called their name Adam, on the day they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and he begot in his likeness as his image, and he called his name Seth. Notice that procreation here is tied to Adam as image. The last of the text that speaks of the image of God follows upon the account of the flood, that final punishment for the universal corruption of the human race. Once again, even after this disaster brought about by human sin, the image quality remains and is the source of the dignity of Adam, who is still the object of God's special care. Genesis 9, 6 through 7 says, "He who sheds the blood of the Adam, by Adam shall his blood be shed. For in the image of Elohim he made the Adam." It goes on, "But you, be fruitful, be many, swarm on the earth, and be many, and rule it." Genesis 9. 6 through 7. There are 2 points that emerge from these texts. The first is that only Adam is the image of God. And the second is that Adam is male and female. Now, paramount in the ancient Near East is the notion that the image makes present the power of what is imaged. This is the reason all images of the Lord are forbidden to Israel. The Lord will be present and reveal himself and his power according to his own good pleasure. To try to manipulate that is an abomination. But on the contrary, for the pagan world, the multiplication of the images of the gods was an exercise of piety. And in the same way, a king could multiply his presence and authority. It was thought that by setting up images of himself, the king could multiply his presence, his power. The presence of both terms, image and likeness, on the statue of a king, which is set up to assert his authority over a region, confirms that the basic notion of Adam as the image of God is that Adam is to be God's vice-regent, the embodiment of his authority here on earth. Now, against this background, the priestly tradition also tells us that Adam is the royal representative of God himself in the world. exercising God's own authority in regard to the earth. Now, in addition to being ruler and representative of God's authority on the earth, the presence of the Sabbath at the end of the priestly text points to another facet of Adam, which is his vocation to worship in relationship to God. So we need to take up all these points. We can categorize opinion along the spectrum of 5 points about the imago. At one extreme, you can find the opinion of Ludwig Kohler, who says that the image of God, according to the Scriptures, is basically to be found in the fact that humans have an upright bodily posture and can gaze at what is above, can gaze at the stars. We're stargazers, and that's what makes us the image. Now that's the upright bodily posture means that body is important for being the image. At the other extreme, you have the opinion of the Church Fathers, Philo and others, that the image of God is found exclusively in the spiritual dimension of the human being. Then Augustine and Aquinas would take this up and say that we are the image because of our freedom and our intelligence. That's what makes us the image, not the body per se. Now, the image here, in terms of mind and will, really are significant in terms of the capacity to relate to God. It's a God-given capacity to represent God, but also to relate to Him. And we relate to God through our will, through our mind, through faith, and through charity. That's the imago. But we shouldn't forget the bodily dimensions of imago as well. If you focus just on what the Fathers did, you kind of ignore the physical dimension of humanity. Now that's an important, I think, lacuna in that way of looking at things. So, coming from these extremes, we find two positions that seek to express the reality of image in terms that sums up position in 1 Genesis. The first idea of the image of God is the image of the royal representative. We represent God on earth as His regents. The second, found stressed by Church Fathers and of all people by Karl Barth, is that the image is found in the divinely conferred capacity to relate to God. Now we can integrate these later too by considering what it is in the human race that makes it apt to be God's representative, and how the other image statements, which allow us to talk about being relational in our very being through the mode of our body. You see, body is important to image, relationship is important to image, relationship through body is important to divine image for a correct understanding of who human beings are and therefore who God is. Now, what about male and female? By using the Hebrew terms zakar and nekah, which accentuate the physical characteristics of male and female, the author of Genesis 1 is telling us two things. First, that physicality enters into the imaging of God. Bodily existence, historical existence, is the sphere in which God is imaged. And this historical bodily imaging of God is accomplished by the Adam, specifically as male and female. See that?